Hey guys, HonestOn23 here, and today I'll be doing a review of Pokemon Black and White 2. Although, I just gotta quickly say, this won't work like my other reviews where I had a script and I read it out, told some dumb jokes, and then edit it all together with all the footage. It's just gonna be me talking about the game because, recording an RPG on my laptop using emulators, recording the whole thing would just be such a big pain, and, it's I've already beaten it on my 3DS, so I don't really want to have to beat it again on my emulator just to get footage, yada yada yada. You don't really care, so yeah, let's just get into it. So the beginning of this game, I actually really liked overall. I would have to say, of course, you have the same tutorial kind of stuff that you have in any Pokemon game, but I think here they kind of have a good compromise between not telling you everything and telling you far too much and wasting your time, because you have the standard like, hey, this is your mum and this is your friend and all that kind of stuff, and here's someone who wants to give you a Pokemon, but they don't really force you to do anything that bad. I think Pokemon Black and White 1 also had a pretty good tutorial, as in it was short. Of course, it's always annoying to have that tutorial where like someone shows you how to catch a Pokemon, but I can kind of see why it's there. That's just the world we live in. That in video games where you have to kind of tell people like, oh, you can do this, or this is something you really need to know, so they have to explicitly hold your hand and show you, look, catch a Pokemon like this. So yeah, they could have made it optional, but still, it's a pretty short intro, and it's really cool. I already went through some of my impressions of the beginning of the game on my impressions video back in like July when the Japanese game came out. But it's really cool to be in an actual city and to have the first gym be in that city. I thought that was a really nice idea, and it does ultimately mean you have to leave and come back, but I still thought it was cool. I still kind of enjoyed that feature. It was kind of disappointing to have to pick from the same starting Pokemon as the 5th gen, but technically it's still the 5th gen, and even though this is a sequel, it's still, it's an expanded Pokemon Crystal, what that game was, not a lesser 6th gen, if you know what I mean. So you kind of have to think it's right in the middle. See, this game overall, it really does make the people who complained about Pokemon being the same and just being the same game look dumb, because this is the first official sequel they've done set in the same region, and it feels like a completely different game. It just feels, obviously not completely different, it's still Pokemon, it's still set in the same region, but it's done differently enough that you don't feel like you're playing the same game again, which I thought was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. And because you start off and you have the first two gyms are actually completely new gyms, and they're both pretty cool. The first one's Sharon from the first game, which is nice. This game's set 2 years after the first one, so it's nice that he's there. And the next one is the new Poison type gym, who's like some woman who rocks or something. So yeah, it was really cool that the whole beginning of the game was just completely new, and you wouldn't even know that you were in the same region as the Black and White one up until the 3rd gym, when you show up in can't remember what the place is called. I don't remember the names of cities, but that big city, you know the one. So yeah, I thought that was really nice. And also, you don't go in the cities in the same order. Like before in the first one, you just went along and then you went like left and clockwise round, and then once you beat the Elite Four, you could keep going clockwise. Instead, you go from that big city to, well, I can't remember the exact order, but once you get to the Steel type gym, or the flying type, still can't remember, you actually fly across to a new town, which is like a, I don't know, Mexico town, I suppose you could call it. It's really dusty and all that. And there's some more new areas in it. It's not just new areas at the beginning, there's new areas there, and then you go through some of those towns that you went through in the post-game of Black and White 1, which is a very smart idea and very cool. And I mean, I really enjoyed going through these towns and actually having to, because before in Pokemon Black and White 1, it was like, oh, there's actually all these towns, but there's really not much to do there, and you don't really hang around there. And I think the last city in the game where the 8th gym is actually also a completely new town, or I didn't recognise it. I mean, I didn't spend that much time in the post game in Black and White 1, so I didn't recognize it. But yeah, that's also a completely new place, or I'm sure it's a completely new gym because it's a water gym. So kind of like the third gen when the last gym was water, or the last gym was water. So yeah, I thought that was nice. There's also loads of little things about this game that this is why it's not a proper review or like my old reviews, because there's loads of little things I have to talk about. It's Pokemon, you know, I got a lot to say. One thing I noticed that HMs have been toned down again. I think they were toned down in the 5th gen and they've been toned down a bit more for Black and White 2. So you only have 5, I believe. You might have more, but I think Waterfall has been changed, so it's now HM05, and you don't have to use them. Strength, I think you do. Surf, you do. And I think that's it. I think that's the only 2 you actually need to beat the game. Obviously, I taught my Pokemon Cut, so I can get through trees, but you get given Waterfall, and you don't need it. You need it for extra stuff, but yeah, these are all extra stuff. So apart from Strength and Surf, even though you could, I think you might be okay without learning Strength, you don't need them, which is awesome, because I hated the HMs. I always have since the 1st gen. I hated them. They were just such a pain. But it's quite funny how in this game you just get given them. You don't like find them or do any quest at arbitrary points in the game. They'll just like say, "Hey, here's a HM. There you go." Oh yeah, Fly. That's the other one I was trying to think of. Fly. Of course, you teach your Pokemon Fly because it's a great move, and you don't need it. Again, you don't actually need it, but it's a great move to have, and it lets you get about. So yeah, they've been toned down to probably the right level. So they're still there. They're still relevant. You still need them to like interact with the world, but it's still, you know, they don't get in the way as much. Something that does get in the way though is that there's this new PokéStar Studios. I don't know why they keep throwing this crap at us. I suppose it's because it's aimed at children Pokemon, really. Not completely, but they still think of children when they make these games because a large amount of children buy them. So they have PokéStar Studios, and once you beat the 2nd gym, you have to go there. You don't have any choice. If you want to get to the next place, because there's a sea captain you have to save, you have to go there, and you have to see what it is, and all the characters are like, "Hey, isn't this just amazing? You can become an actor," and it's just awful. As soon as I could leave, I left, and I didn't go back, and it's not really a big deal. I just found myself really annoyed by the fact that you have to go see it, and you have to spend like 10 minutes there, seeing what it is, seeing what you can do there. You don't have any choice. In the other games, when they had all this extra rubbish that you could do, they never forced you to do it or check it out exactly. You have to go there and be like in the 4th gen, you have to be like, "Oh, what's this fashion show all about?" But then you could just instantly like leave after one conversation, and I think that was just right. And yeah, to show that, hey, this thing's here if you want to do it, but if you don't, that's no big deal. It's still an RPG, you know. I mean, I know some people or kids play it's like, "Hey, Pokemon," but I mean, it's still an RPG and a bloody good one. So I want to do the RPG sections. I don't want to do the extra things where you have Pokemon looking cute and all that kind of stuff. You know, I just don't want to do that. One thing that I noticed one thing that's really cool is that all the current gyms have been completely redesigned. All of them have. Like the bug one before, you had to do, oh god, I think you had to do the gates or something. I can't remember what it was in Black and White 1. But yeah, that bug gym, now you have to go in these cocoons, and it looks so good. The graphics in this generation is probably it's easily the best they've ever been. Just some of the things that they can achieve on the DS, I can kind of see why they didn't jump to the 3DS, although that's a whole other issue, you know. Yeah, I can see why they didn't jump to the 3DS, because some of the stuff, it looks really nice, just visually just really nice, especially that bug gym, I have to say. So you get sucked up and then you go through like that, and then you have to pick the right cocoon to get to the top, and then you reach this like rainbow cocoon where the gym leader is, and it just looks so nice. But the thing I really like is that with all these gyms, they've all been redesigned, and there's now, finally, I don't know why it took them this long, you can, once you do the puzzle, you don't have to do it again, in most cases. Like say with the water gym I mentioned at the end, you have to move all these lily pads to get to the gym leader and to get past all the trainers. But once you get to the gym leader, there's this one lily pad that takes you all the way back to the beginning of the gym, which is great. You know, it's like the older games where there was always like Black White 1 there's a teleporter that took you back, I think. And so yeah, you get on the lily pad, you leave to go here, but then you come back and that lily pad's still there. It hasn't reset, so you can just go straight to the gym leader without having to do the puzzle again. It's something I would have really liked in the 4th gen when you had to do that horrible snowball puzzle. I really hated that one. I mean, you can go watch the LP. I really hated doing that because it reset itself every time you left, but the puzzles don't reset themselves. So you can't go straight to the gym in every one just because of the nature of some of the puzzles you have to do. But yeah, you know, you can, most of the time you can just go straight back. Like with the cocoon, a new cocoon opens once you get to the gym leader, so you can go straight back and see him again. Also, probably not needed in this review, but I had a really hard time with the 4th gym. I had a really hard time with the 4th gen gym in the Black and White 1, and I had a really hard time with the electric gym in this one. I don't know if it's just me, I'm just throwing that out there, but that's the one I definitely had the hardest time with. It just took forever for me to do. Other new features are the medal system, which I really like actually, is quite cool. What it is that once you do something kind of like achievements, I want to say, I mean I know me saying that will put some people off the medal system, but that's the best way to describe it. Where once you do something like say run a certain amount of steps or something like that, this guy will show up and give you a medal for it. And I didn't really like it when I first heard about it, but the way it's done is like really smart, because the way you get the medals, you can accidentally do most of the medals just by playing the game. And then once you go to the Pokemon Center, any Pokemon Center, the guy will just show up if you've earned a medal right next to the counter, and then you talk to him and you get the medal that way. So it's something that I thought, oh, he's here, I'll just talk to him and get a free medal, I might as well. And then I found myself actually getting sucked into it that way, because I thought, well now, because you don't have to go out of your way to get them, all you have to do is go to the Pokemon Center that you're going to do anyway and just talk to him. So it's actually a pretty cool little system. It's nothing major, but it's still pretty nice. I didn't actually get 50 medals because he tells you to get 50. In the end I didn't, and you get hint medals so you can actually know what you have to do for the medals. So, but yeah, in the end I didn't get 50, but it was still a nice new, it's just a little thing that kind of adds a bit more depth to it, not that much. You can do it if you want, you don't have to. So yeah, that's something I enjoyed. And another new feature that, again, it's something that should have been in like the 3rd generation, is something called habitats, or habitat list, which is on your Pokedex. In every route, once you see a Pokemon, it will record it for you where you saw it in that route. So that means that in each route you can actually go through on your Pokedex and see which Pokemon or which route has which Pokemon. Awesome, like that's just such a nice feature, and it adds a more kind of, like, I never really cared about seeing all the Pokemon in a game. I just cared about getting like the strongest ones and the ones I really liked for my team. But now it was kind of like, well, I can fill my habitat in this route by just exploring a bit more and just staying in the grass a bit more. Because you get a stamp and it tells you once you've found all the Pokemon. I don't know how it knows that, but whatever. So yeah, there was kind of a bit more motivation to actually see all the Pokemon that each route had, because it recorded it for you and you can actually go check, and then if you wanted a certain type you could look it up. And also I believe once you catch a Pokemon, it tells you where you can see that Pokemon in every route. Like so I caught a Marill and a Azumarill or whatever, a Azurill, those sort of things. And then once I had it fully evolved, then it just mapped it in all the routes I could surf, because it splits it into grass and surfing and fishing, I suppose. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a little thing that some people might not even use at all, but it's just such a nice little feature, and I just thought it was really nice. And one thing I have to mention, or one of the biggest things about this game, for me personally, is that the old Pokemon are back. Like, Black and White was very smart in that they didn't have any of the old Pokemon until you beat the game. That was very smart. It made it feel new and fresh, and actually made it feel like you're playing something different, unlike the 4th gen where it was, I don't even want to talk about that generation, it's awful. But yeah, so now it's Black and White 2, they can actually have this mix of, it's probably mostly, I would say it's like half and half. It's half 5th gen and it's half the older Pokemon, I think. So you don't get every single Pokemon. By the time I finished the game, I had seen over 200 types. So yeah, that was pretty nice. So there's now like this really nice variety, that something that I think they should have started doing earlier, where at the beginning of the game, or not that far into it, you can just catch so many different Pokemon that there's so many different combinations that your team could be. Because that's one thing I talked about in my Pokemon Pearl LP, how in 4th gen, if you wanted a grass type and you didn't pick Turtwig, you were using Budgie. Like that was it. There was no other choice really. Not even later into the game. There was a lot of choice with water types, but there wasn't any other choice with the others really. Like if you wanted an electric type, you're having shoot that little electric thing. It's not Shinx. Is it Shinx? It might be Shinx. I don't know. But this one is not like that. It's kind of like that, but it's a bit more different. Like if you wanted a fire type, you could catch Magma. Or if you don't want that, you could catch Growlithe. Or if you didn't want that, you could have a Tepig in the beginning. And there's another one as well that you can catch kind of early on. So in the first 2 gyms you can catch a lot. Like if you wanted an electric type, you could catch Mareep. But if you don't want that, you could catch Magnemite. And then later on there's other electric types you could get. So I really love how much variety there is in this game. I wish there was a bit more, but I can't really complain. It's a big step in the right direction, that you're not limited to like a set number of Pokemon if you want that sort of Pokemon, you know. I think flying type is still kind of limited. Like there's no Pidgey or Spearow or anything like that I didn't see. There might be Hoothoots, because the generation, like 5th gen Pokemon is the one you see the most, but I think 2nd gen Pokemon is the one you see second most. I mean, I know this because of Marill and Mareep at the beginning. Definitely at the beginning you see 2nd gen Pokemon quite a lot. And I'm just very happy that Marill's in this game, because Marill's my favourite Pokemon ever. He's just so awesome, he's so cool. But of course, Azurill evolves into Marill once it's happy, and apparently he wasn't happy. So by the time he evolved into Marill, he was already the high enough level to evolve into Azumarill, so that was kind of disappointing. I actually stopped him from evolving because I loved Marill that much. He's the coolest. So, but one thing that was kind of weird is that legendary Pokemon show up in front of you. 3 of them do at random points in the game. There's still a ton of legendary Pokemon to seek out and find. I didn't seek out and find them, if I'm being honest, because it's not something I'm interested in. But yeah, 3 of them randomly just show up in front of you, and they're all 5th gen legendaries. I don't think they're not new Pokemon, so that was kind of a bit odd. I mean, I guess that's for them to try and get you to seek out the other legendaries, I suppose. I mean, that's the only reason I could think of them showing legendaries as direct, as like this direct, because it's literally you're walking to the next city and there it is, just hanging out where you have to go. So kind of odd, but you know, nothing bad. Yeah, people in this game you're not as limited as you was before. You're still pretty limited, as in like you try to go somewhere and some random fat guy's like, no, you only have 3 gym badges. You know, there's still that going on, but you're not quite as limited as you were. Oh, I didn't feel so anyway. Like in the 4th gym, I had a lot of trouble, so I was training at the Relic Castle, that kind of place. But then I realised that I could go left and right into those routes. I couldn't go any further, but it was really nice that I could actually go to these routes before beating the gym leader. And it was just nice. So you're not as limited, and you're not, because it's just kind of annoying when like people stop you. And it's a thing they've been using for a while now, that they would just have someone stop you and say, no, don't go this way, for no reason. You know, so there's still a bit of that going on here, but it's not as bad. I felt like it didn't really get in the way. Well, one thing I should talk about is Team Plasma, because Team Plasma returned, but it's kind of interesting. Okay, so in the first 2 games I liked Team Plasma. Of course they were dumb, but every team's dumb. None of them were smart. I mean, none of them are going to be as dumb as Team Galactic, whose plan was to destroy the world to make a new one. I don't know what the hell that was about. But yeah, Team Plasma actually kind of did even though they were dumb, they were supposed to be dumb. They did raise the question, what is it okay to capture Pokemon? You know, which I thought was kind of interesting that they brought up that issue. Is it Pokemon cruelty? I mean, I don't know if they were going for an animal cruelty message. I mean, I don't think they were, because that's really dumb. I mean, there's a difference between having a cat in your house and, you know, making a Purrloin claw at a Pikachu. So I don't think they were doing that. But I thought that was an interesting question they raised and all that. And the N story, even though N was kind of a dick, it was kind of interesting that they had that story. And there's still a story here in this game. Not as much as the first game, because the first game did focus on N, and N was one of your rivals, you could probably say. And N was throughout the whole game, and Team Plasma was, yeah, this one not as much. There's some really cool cutscenes in this game, and really cool moments. I won't spoil any of them, but the cutscenes are definitely, they look like proper cutscenes now. Like before they would just kind of show something happening, but now they are actually feel more like proper cutscenes where stuff's going on, and you're actually like a story is kind of happening. So yeah, Team Plasma has been split into two, where they have all the rogue ones who just were like, oh, we just wanted to be kind of bad. Although there's a moment where one of them says, all I wanted to do was help Pokemon, which was really sad. I don't know why, it just made me feel really sad for that guy. Like, oh, he just wanted to help, poor guy. I mean, I just got his ass kicked. So yeah, it still kind of raises that kind of question, but not as much. It's more the Team Plasma now are just evil, and we're going to do evil stuff. But then there is the Team Plasma who liked N and said they really did want to help, so separated in their own way. And there's not quite as a dramatic climax as there was in Pokemon Black and White, but there is some really good moments, and battling Team Plasma's, you know, it's pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was quite nice. Oh, one thing I gotta talk about is the rival. Oh god, they messed up with this one. Not completely. Pretty much each rival in each gen has had their own personality up to now. Gary was like a school rival kind of thing, because you were kids. Second one was just a guy who was a dick, who wanted to become stronger and didn't care. Third one was May, he was just nice and friendly. Fourth one was Barry, he was just like ADD, pretty much. And the fifth one, like your old best friends, who each kind of had their own slight personalities as well. This one, Hugh, I think is called. It's just Barry again from the 4th gen, only toned down a bit. It's quite nice they actually did give him some sort of motivation in this one, or tiny bit of a story, I suppose. Is that apparently Team Plasma, this is a bit of a spoiler, apparently Team Plasma stole his sister's Purrloin, which is why he hates Team Plasma and goes after them so much. So that was kind of nice how they did that, but it's just Barry again. I really want a rival in the same vein as the first two. Like, he doesn't have to be as bad as the one in the 2nd gen who's just like angry and hates you and wants to become stronger. But something like Gary, I would just want to see another Gary again, you know? If they're going to repeat any of the Pokemon rivals, why Barry? It's just, I mean, they just want people like the good guys to be passionate about Pokemon now and just love Pokemon so much that they can't seem to go back to any rivals that are kind of mean or not completely your best friend. So I was disappointed by the rival. I mean, it was kind of nice to actually see the rival be about, like, it felt like you were kind of going on a journey with him a bit more in the past ones than the past ones, because he would actually be in the city and he would show up more and talk to you, and you would actually see him like in a patch of grass just hanging out. Like, that's where he would be, and he would be like, oh, I'm trying to get stronger to beat the gym, and then he would go and beat the gyms, and sometimes you're ahead, sometimes he's ahead. I like that part of it, but he was just awful. I don't know why his personality had to be like goddamn Barry's. It was just awful. So the last thing I got written down on my list here is the champion. So the Elite Four is the same as it was before. You actually take a different victory road, which I actually really like, because it wasn't a maze. It felt more like it was a mountain climb, but it wasn't a maze. It was a tad confusing, but you weren't going to get lost, and you didn't have to solve puzzles in this one. I think there was 0 puzzle solving if you wanted to get to the end. You just had to pick the right route, and even then it wasn't that complicated. So I liked that. I thought that was good. Victory Road kind of, it didn't need to have puzzles, really. It just needed to feel triumphant. Like, yeah, I'm at the end of the game, I'm trying to get to the Elite Four, I've almost beaten it. And that's what this one felt like, because it's different from the one in black and white, because apparently that one, something happened to it, I don't know. They don't explain it. But then you get to the Elite Four and it's the same as before. They have different Pokemon, but it's very similar. They keep a lot of the Pokemon they had before, and it's the same 4 Elite Four members. And then the champion, for me, I was playing Black 2, so it was just the little girl, Iris, which I was really disappointed by. Like, you actually see Elder the champion early on in the game, and that was kind of cool. But this one, oh, it was just the girl. And I was kind of hoping it would be you from the first game, because that would make the most sense. You know, really, you were the champion. And maybe it would be, because there's that link thing that I didn't do, where if you played the first games, you could kind of have your character kind of get integrated into this one. But I don't have my copy of Black and White. Honestly, but just between me and you, I never had a proper official copy. But yeah, I never had one, so I couldn't link my character, so it felt like a big chunk of the game. It felt really weird, this world, how he's mentioned, like, your character in the first one was mentioned like once. I think N mentions the character, yeah, spoiler, N's in this game. He says, oh yeah, and that trainer. And that's it, that's the only mention. I would have liked it if he was in this game. Maybe he is. Because between me and you, I don't have much money, so I bought the game on the Friday it came out in Europe. Traded it in on the Tuesday after beating the Elite Four and the champion on the Monday. So I haven't done any post-game. I'll probably buy the game again at some point, or just play it on the emulator, maybe. So yeah, that's my review of Pokemon Black and White 2. Pretty much to summarize, this feels like the definitive Pokemon game. This is the one where all their experiences really come together. Each generation before had had some dumb kind of choices, apart from maybe the second gen, that was really the most rounded before, had some dumb choices that didn't really work, and this one understands the game. It's just really enjoyable. I had a really great time with it. It's probably, if I got rid of nostalgia, or the large nostalgia I have for the first 2 games, this is probably the best Pokemon game ever that they've released. There's not that much frustration to it, it's just really enjoyable to play. There's some really cool moments in it. So I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10, which is actually the highest score I've given it. Now, I haven't done any of the post game, so you may kind of think that's a bit out of order for me to give it a score, but I beat the champion and saw the end credits, and it said the end, so I've beaten it, alright? So yeah, it's a 9.5 out of 10. I would definitely recommend anyone to pick it up. It probably won't persuade any people who aren't into Pokemon, but if you do like Pokemon, this is a good starting point, although you're going to be lost because this is a sequel. And yeah, I mean, so yeah, I loved it. I really did love it. So 9.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching this. I know it's 28 minutes long, but I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about the new generation. Overall, I've heard a lot of positive things, and I completely agree with them. So yeah, until next time, I'll see you later.